Imagine spending over 4 decades in prison for a murder you didn't commit. You finally walk free, a 64-year-old man, tasting freedom for the first time since you were a teenager. Just as his sister prepared to bring him home October 3rd, the 64-year-old was taken into federal custody over a 1999 deportation order. This isn't fiction. It's the heartbreaking reality for Subramanyam's Subu Vedam. The Vedam family was among the earliest Indian households to settle in the region known as Happy Valley. Subramanyam's father arrived in 1956 as a postdoctoral researcher, laying down roots in State College. Their eldest daughter was born there, but Subu, as he was affectionately called, was born during a brief return to India in 1961. He legally came to the United States from India when he was 9 months old. Before his first birthday, the family moved back to State College permanently, becoming a welcoming presence for other Indian families arriving in town. They were deeply involved in the community. My father was a postdoctoral man in 1956 at the university, and my mother, who worked as a librarian, played a role in establishing the local library, said Saraswati Vedam, 68, Subu's sister, and a midwifery professor based in Vancouver, British Columbia. While his sister headed off to college in Massachusetts, Subu remained in State College, immersing himself in the countercultural wave of the late 1970s. He let his hair grow long, experimented with drugs, and continued his studies at Penn State. In December 1980, Subu was just 19 years old, asked Thomas Kinser for a lift to Lewisburg, reportedly to purchase drugs. That day would be the last time anyone saw Kinser alive. His van was later discovered parked outside his apartment, but he had vanished. It wasn't until 9 months later that hikers stumbled upon his remains in a sinkhole in a remote wooded area near State College, Pennsylvania. Vedam was initially held on drug-related charges as authorities pursued their investigation. Eventually, he was charged with murder. In 1983, he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. To settle the drug case, he entered a no-contest plea to 4 counts of LSD distribution and 1 count of theft. A retrial in 1988 brought no relief. His conviction stood, and his sentence remained unchanged. Although the defense long questioned the ballistics evidence in the case, the jury, which heard that Vedam had bought a .25 caliber gun from someone, never heard that an FBI report suggested the bullet wound was too small to have been fired from that gun. Gopal Balachandran, an associate clinical professor of law, only found that report as he dug into the case in 2023. His story is a gut-wrenching journey through the failures of the American justice system, and it's a story you need to hear. There was no physical evidence tying Subu to the scene. There wasn't even a clear motive. Why would this 19-year-old suddenly murder his friend? The prosecution's case was built on circumstantial evidence and speculation. Despite the shaky foundation, a jury convicted him of first-degree murder. The system had spoken twice. Subu Vedam was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the next 43 years, the world moved on without him. He aged behind bars, always maintaining his innocence, but the system that put him there seemed deaf to his pleas. He missed his entire young adulthood, his middle age, everything. Despite the confines of prison, Subu never let his circumstances define him. Over the course of 4 decades, he dedicated himself to learning, honing his skills, and, above all, uplifting those around him through acts of quiet service and compassion. In 1984, Subu became a founding board member of the first Pennsylvania Inmate-Initiated Prison Literacy Council, one of the first in the country. He earned 55 certificates and diplomas. In 2000, Subu earned his Bachelor of Science in Finance from Regents College in New York, graduating magna cum laude. In September 2021, he completed an MBA program from Adams State University with a 4.0 GPA and many commendations from his professors, becoming the only inmate in SCI Huntington prison history to achieve a graduate degree. It was a remarkable feat, especially given the severe limitations of life in a maximum security prison. No internet access, no direct communication with professors or classmates, restricted library resources, and barriers to obtaining essential textbooks. His study time was confined to the few hours available outside of mandatory prison labor. Within his family, Subu is a calm and guiding presence, a source of wisdom and quiet strength. He shares a close, intentional bond with each of his 4 cherished nieces, staying actively involved in their education and nurturing their growth through regular, thoughtful communication. A passionate reader, Subu devours a wide array of non-fiction books and journals each day, often sparking thoughtful discussions with fellow inmates on the honor block. He meticulously logs his reading and regularly shares his favorite titles with his family. His broad knowledge across subjects, from education and finance to career and housing, makes him a trusted advisor, and he continues to support his loved ones with insight and care from behind prison walls. But Subu and his legal team never gave up hope. They kept fighting, kept digging, kept pushing for the truth to come out. And then, a breakthrough. In 2022, lawyers working with the Innocence Project discovered new evidence exposing critical prosecutorial misconduct. The evidence, which had been illegally withheld from defense lawyers, included an FBI report concluding that the victim was not killed by the bullets from the gun prosecutors attempted to link to Vedam. Specifically, the bullet hole measurements in the concealed evidence were too small to have come from the .25 caliber weapon prosecutors had maintained was used in the killing. This wasn't just a minor detail, it was a game changer. This evidence completely undermined the state's original theory of the crime. On August 28, 2025, Center County Court of Common Pleas Judge Jonathan D. Grine ruled in Vedam's favor, finding the concealed evidence represented a violation of his constitutional right to due process. The ruling officially vacated the conviction. Center County District Attorney Bernie Cantorna formally dismissed all charges on October 2, 2025, making Vedam the longest-serving exoneree in Pennsylvania history and one of the longest in the United States, having spent 43 years behind bars. The official record now stated that Subu Vedam was innocent. After 43 long, grueling years, the truth had finally prevailed. On October 3, 2025, the prison gates swung open. Subu, now 64 years old, walked out, ready to reconnect with a world he barely knew. His family was there, waiting to embrace the brother and son they had lost for so long. But that moment of pure, unadulterated joy lasted only seconds. As he stepped into the free world, a new set of authorities approached him. Agents from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. In a cruel twist of fate, freedom was snatched away from him yet again. The agents were acting on a deportation order from 1999, an order linked to a minor drug conviction from decades earlier, before the murder charge even happened. So, just moments after being exonerated for a murder he didn't commit, Subu was back in handcuffs. He was no longer a state prisoner. He was an ICE detainee. He was immediately transported from the prison in Pennsylvania to the Moshannon Valley Processing Center in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania. It is the largest immigration detention facility in the northeastern United States, and then later moved to a staging facility in Louisiana, preparing him for deportation. This is where the story takes an even more tragic turn. Subu Vedam isn't just a visitor to the United States. He's a green card holder. He was brought to this country from India as a 9-month-old infant. This is the only home he has ever known. He doesn't even speak Hindi. He has no family, no friends, no connections there whatsoever. He is, for all intents and purposes, an American. The country he is being deported to is as foreign to him as it would be to any of us. His legal team and his family are now fighting a second desperate battle. They argue that deporting him would be a profound second injustice. First, the state stole 43 years of his life by wrongfully imprisoning him. Now, the federal government wants to exile him from his home, his family, and the only country he has ever known. It's a punishment on top of a punishment, for a crime he was already exonerated for. When asked about his situation, Subu's words are haunting. He said, "I'm still a detainee. After 4 decades behind bars, he still isn't free. He has simply been transferred from one form of custody to another. The emotional toll is unimaginable. To be told you're innocent and free, only to have that freedom immediately revoked, is a form of psychological torment that's hard to comprehend. Thankfully, there's a small glimmer of hope. A federal judge has issued a temporary stay, blocking his immediate deportation. This gives his lawyers precious time to fight the order and make their case. But his future hangs precariously in the balance. Will he finally get to live the rest of his life in peace with his family? Or will he be sent to a country where he is a complete stranger? Subu Vedam's case has sparked outrage across the country. It throws a harsh spotlight on the deep flaws within both our criminal justice and immigration systems. Throughout his 44-year ordeal, Subu declined plea bargains and maintains his innocence. Twice during trial proceedings, Subu was offered plea bargains. He declined because of his strong desire to clear his name. How can a man be declared innocent by a court of law, yet still be punished as if he were guilty? How can our immigration system fail to recognize the profound injustice of deporting someone who has lived here his entire life and was wrongfully imprisoned for most of it? This story isn't just about one man. It's about the intersection of two powerful and often unforgiving government systems. It forces us to ask difficult questions about justice, mercy, and what it truly means to be free. Subu's fight is a fight for his life, and it's a stark reminder that an exoneration doesn't always mean a happy ending. After 34 years of visiting him weekly in prison, Subu's mother passed away in 2016 at age of 84. His father, Dr. K. Vedam, Professor Emeritus, Physics, passed away in September 2009. From wrongful conviction to immigration limbo, Subu's story is still unfolding. But through it all, he remains a man of purpose, resilience, and quiet strength. A special message from Subu's family. Subu and his family carry a deep awareness of the sorrow endured by those who loved Tom Kinzer, the 19-year-old victim at the heart of this still unsolved tragedy. They offer heartfelt compassion to Tom's family and friends, recognizing that each new hearing reopens wounds and forces them to relive an unimaginable loss. Yet keeping Subu imprisoned for a crime he did not commit does not serve justice, for Tom, for his loved ones, or for the truth. Instead, it delays the possibility of uncovering what truly happened. By continuing to seek justice for Subu, his family hopes to honor the pursuit of truth and contribute to a legal system that is more fair, more transparent, and more accountable for everyone. Thank you so much for watching and for taking the time to learn about Subu Vedam's story. It's cases like these that need our attention. We'll continue to follow his journey and share the truth behind the headlines. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into cases that matter. Your support helps us bring these important stories to light. See you in the next one.